Sounds good.
Yes. I
Yes.
have on, well, I'm going to start that over. Oh my God. It's one of those things where you overly think about it. Anyway, I have
Totally.
on Jess Bryn. We met in DC and she took care of us in this all ladies house, and she was
Yeah.
just always there to just helpful, and having that in a, let me make this full screen because it's too bright. I just, when someone mentioned that there would be a house mom, I was like,
Hmm.
wow, that's a really amazing idea, just to have someone to kind of, I don't know, you describe what you did actually, or say thanks for having me on, and
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
I'm just kidding.
Where else is the script? Yeah, I think house mom is a good description. I think I come from a postpartum training background, so in that way, the mothers need to be mothered. Like newborns also have new moms, and so part of postpartum care is to make sure the mother is nourished, and so that I kind of just apply that to activist spaces sometimes, where it's like the people organizing, the women doing the work, like all need to be fed and need to be nourished. That's just like a need of human beings, and especially women. I think feeding women is like one of the most honorable things you can do. Yeah,
It
so
was great having
that's
you,
what I
and
did.
it really did ease things up where we could
Yeah.
focus on the work we needed to do. And I tried to make sure to thank you. I definitely saw all the work you did, and I was very thankful for it. And I'm like, oh, look at all these amazing herbs and teas. This tea is like dark as night. I was like, what
Hmm.
is this? I think I've heard of nettle, but
Yeah.
man, just I'm fascinated with it all. Like
Yeah.
I'm always interested in bettering my body and what you put on or in your body. And I
Hmm.
was like, look at these little droplets and whatnot. Which, by the way, I
Hmm.
totally bought those.
Which
My
ones did
husband,
you buy?
zinc, and I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
get one that was just vitamin C, but it was that same brand just because I don't like to deviate from what I've known and
Hmm.
tried. But my
Yeah.
husband's from Ukraine and he tried it and he was like, "Oh yeah, this reminds me of the medicine I had growing up." And I was like, "Dear
Oh really?
God, yeah, like just that harsh, bittery. I don't know, just different countries, different things."
Hmm.
So thank you for all the work you did. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you're welcome. You too.
Thanks, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So did you want to start with the list that you had the beginning? I
I
just
don't
revealed.
Sure. We can just start with something, and I'm sure it's hard because I feel like everything is like so interwoven and related. So it's like, where do you even begin? I have
Wherever you
like,
want. I guess
um,
you go. I don't even. I'm not gonna. I don't have to guide you. You know what you're doing.
yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I mean, I don't know if I love talking about it, but like rape culture is just like profoundly misunderstood, I think. And I think that's why I'm probably a radical feminist. I guess we could start with like when I became a feminist.
Yeah,
um,
it's funny you had that on the end of the list. It's just I was like, whatever you
yeah,
want.
see, it's like, where do you begin, really? Um, but I remember in middle school, I would, I was always the little girl lecturing people about using the word bitch. I
Wow.
was like, that word is inherently female because connotation is female, and it's inherently, portraying women as weak. So even if you're calling a man a bitch, you're like disrespecting women and me. And I was careful never to say like don't say that word, but I was like,
Mm.
here's what happens in me when you say that. You know what I mean? Like I have a reaction to you using the word bitch, and it makes me feel disrespected as a woman. And so then I was known as this little girl, and onwards. Just like, oh, don't say bitch around Jessica, and like I
But
would
that's
get,
incredible. The fact that you weren't like, you can't say that. That was such
yeah.
a mature mindset. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm assuming your parents raised you that way. That's incredible. That's so mature.
Yeah. Well, I also like I really knew that I didn't like people telling me what to do. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm a very I was very like my parents learned early like, oh, don't try to tell her what to do because that will just backfire. So and I think I've always had that recognition of like if I want to be treated one way, then I have to treat people that way. So it's
You have
interesting.
siblings?
Yeah, I have two little brothers.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and I'm really proud of them and their inquiries around what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, and I take a lot of pride in, my role in that.
Yeah, it's a huge
um,
role.
so yeah, I have two little brothers. So I think I understand men pretty, I mean, as well as any woman can. You know what I mean? Um, yeah.
Well, I
Do you have
just feel like,
siblings?
yeah, I was asking that
Oh, that's
because
right. You were visiting your family
six
recently.
total, including me, but we
Woo!
just bickered a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think me and my siblings would have that understanding of, hey, if I say this to them, whatever it is, they're not going to like it because I don't like it. I'm just like, that
Hmm.
wasn't even in my wheelhouse growing up. It was just, that's like, to me, it's a very mature thought because, well, because I learned that way later, way after the fact, after all basically the damage is done and like horrible, just not
Hmm.
healthy. I don't know if there's a healthy way to, I guess there is, there is to fight with siblings. It would
Yeah.
just be like the forced kiss and make up, and
Mm.
didn't really want to do
Yeah.
it. I'm not blaming. I don't know how to parent. I don't know what's
Yeah.
right or wrong. They tried, so, but
Yeah.
it was just nasty fighting stuff. It was just not fun.
Do you have sisters?
Yeah, one
Yeah.
brother.
One brother and five girls. Wow. Yeah, that's something I really don't know about, like having sisters. I had friends who had sisters, and the way sisters interacted and fought was like, I mean, I fought with my brothers. Like, I'm not gonna, um, but yeah, the sister fighting can get gnarly, um, and I think it's so sad. Like, and I think that's a result of patriarchy. Absolutely, like it's so sad that like sisterhood has been um so misrepresented and demonized that I see those two things as related somehow. I don't know. Do you feel like, does that
Yeah, I
resonate for
think,
you?
yeah, there's so much about becoming a feminist and
Hmm.
researching it and all the horrifying stuff. It's just,
Oh yeah, I haven't
I
read
mean,
that
nobody
one.
teaches you this stuff.
Yeah,
It's something you
on
have to
purpose.
discuss. Yeah. Oh, I know. I figured that
Yeah.
out pretty fast. Like, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's just I think that the patriarchal stuff is so, it's almost like invisible.
Hmm.
And it's so unfortunate because I'm like, God, it's complex and some people probably don't believe it still exists. I didn't think it existed still. I thought it was something that we like crushed or dominated back in the 60s.
Hmm.
I almost don't like using the word patriarchy because it does seem dated for some reason. But I'm like, no, it's just the way that women are bred to like think and act and don't never question it. And it's not
Hmm.
like an obvious you act this way and do all this.
Yeah.
It's like in
Sneaky.
every, yes, it's in every
Yeah.
bit of a woman's and man's life. It's just the whole world.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary, really.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think, me and my sisters fighting and then just not finding a way to resolve it. And maybe my mom not being able to discover a way to help us out was also a part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I don't know how to describe like why it was like that. I don't know if I can describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's I think such a frustrating part of patriarchy and rape culture. It's just like sometimes rape doesn't look like rape, and then it's
Yes.
like, and then it's so
Yes.
confusing, and then there's been plenty of times I've had sex where I'm like, oh wait, that, like, I didn't actually want to have sex, and it's not clear that it's rape. It's like it's
Exactly.
so sneaky, and this idea of proof
Okay.
really makes me so mad because there's never proof. There's
Exactly.
rarely proof. Rarely does a woman get raped and then go
Let me make sure to put
directly.
my phone, like, let me
Yeah.
record. You're okay with this, right? Or you didn't see me. Like, it's just, what?
Yeah. And so the law is just like created to protect rapists, and it makes me so angry, and people talk about proof. Well, like, we need to wait until it's proven, and I'm like, literally, they're all of my rapists, like none of it will ever be proven in law.
Exactly.
I've tried to go to the police for a few of them, and it's like it's impossible to for there to be any proof. So every time, like, proof, the word proof, I fucking hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah. As you
And
should.
there never is enough,
No, it's
So
like, why can't you just take it at what I'm saying? Like, what kills me about it is like, you really fucking think that I'm that
yeah,
crazy or desperate, or those don't connect to me. You think I
yeah,
would throw myself out there, and like, whether or not it's public, because mine was the whole gaming Me Too shit. I was raped by a Ubisoft employee. I will say that till the day I die.
mhm,
I didn't used to call it rape because I didn't see it
mhm,
as rape, and then
mhm,
it wasn't until my therapist started unraveling it for me, and I was like,
mhm.
fuck, because
Yeah.
it's just. I feel like, my God, maybe even the way that it's portrayed in movies is also a way to be
Yes,
like, it always looks like this. It's never
totally.
really. Oh God, it's so. Mine was super. I never. Whatever. I was just like, I said no repeatedly.
Mhm,
That's rape. Like, it doesn't matter
mhm,
what details were involved. That's like, that's what rape is. And it's so funny how I
mhm.
just, maybe I just didn't want to admit to myself that somebody
Yeah.
got to me. Like,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
I
it's
didn't even finish
hard.
my sentence of like, I'm sorry, I don't think I did. Just like, what woman would, I kind of said it, but what woman would like make that public or say that out loud in any capacity? Like, there's so much embarrassment and shame. For me, it's so embarrassing because I'm like this loudmouth, strong woman. And I'm like, oh my God, people are going to be like, wow, she's weak. Or, I don't know. But it can happen to anyone. It's
Mhm.
predators know what they're doing. They
Totally.
know how to spot the people. Man,
They
they
really
are fucking pros.
they do.
I don't know where I was going with that. It's just like, why would a woman make that shit up?
Mhm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
How silly. Like,
Yeah.
you think we would even like, what? For
Yeah.
what? I didn't get any
Yeah.
money. Like,
Totally.
what? To get like
Totally.
attention during the Me Too stuff? By the way, there was men that definitely had their Me Too stories, and it was so gross during the whole gaming thing. And I was
Mm.
like a girl said, like, hit on a guy, and that was this guy's Me Too. I was like, get the fuck out of
They
here.
always try
Get
to
the
do
fuck.
that, dude. They
It's like,
always try.
oh, women are getting attention for
Yeah.
horrible violation of bodily every integrity. Like, just, I want
Mhm.
some of that attention too. In any capacity, it's just get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here.
Mhm.
Ew. I mean, I just can't imagine stooping to that level. Dear God.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I'm not surprised that um after Me Too, transness blew up too more. I mean, I'm just aware of it in the last like I don't know 4 or 5 years, but that transness coincided with the Me Too movement is
Oh
like
yeah.
not surprising to me. I think something that I've seen it's like men don't want to be responsible for being men. So they get to be like, well, now I'm a woman and now I don't have to be responsible for being um any abuse that I've like
Can
perpetrated,
you
you know.
explain that? I've heard that before. Are you saying that the,
I don't
yeah,
I don't know if I can explain it more than
yeah.
that other than like it's a feeling. It's a knowing inside myself where it's
Mm-hmm.
like something isn't right here. Just like trying to get off the hook of being a man. I think there's this um
Yep.
sort of story about like, oh, it's so scary to be a man right now because like what if something comes out where like you did something and you didn't even know you did it and it's like, well, if you're trans then like that doesn't happen in the same way. Um and I've actually seen that play out in at least one situation I know of where a man was abusing his partner, but he was trans. So then, like after the breakup, like like there was like fun GoFundMe's for
Mm-hmm.
him. Like it was like this weird thing where like he
Of
was the
course.
abuser, but he was trans. So then it was like all was forgiven.
Oh
And
my God.
I
It's
see that
there's
a lot, and
yeah,
yeah. So yeah.
there's this trans identifying male, parading around pretending to be a woman, of which they were on my friends list on Facebook, and I legit thought it was a woman. And then I saw it was in an interview. I'm not going to give the person's name because this person does not need me fucking attention. But people are like, oh, if they're doing, here's where I have a problem with it. If they're living their own life and not hurting any one thing, they were on my friends list. I thought they were like a fellow feminist because we had a lot of mutual friends. It's a man, and I thought it was a
Hmm.
woman. I'm like, well, I'm not physically hurt. I'm not really psychologically hurt, but this is what I have massive problems with this whole like gray area with trans anything. It's like, I thought that was a woman. I don't like trickery. Okay? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. I feel like it's a violation. It's just straight up
Mm-hmm.
you're not telling the truth about what you are. I have a problem with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you're not hurting anyone. I mean, I still have the big question about like, well, what bathroom are you going? Whatever. It's just like, yeah, that shit. Where was I going with that? Something. Oh, he gets all this, clout and internet likes and so much support. What
Mm-hmm.
about the trans widow, his ex-wife, of which, his ego and his one and all thing, she's left in the fucking dust. What about
Mm-hmm.
her?
Mm-hmm.
This is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you've watched Transparent.
No,
The,
which
it was,
which one is that on or streaming?
I think it's on Amazon. It's by I forget, Jill something. The whole story is about a man who comes out late in life as a
AGP.
woman.
Excuse me.
What?
I said AGP, autogonophilia.
Oh, and it's about his family and how, or yeah, his family and how they take it. And then like at the end, it comes out that the wife was sexually abused as a child, and like the whole time, all of the attention has been on the man, the husband, who's like, "Oh, like Dad, we're so like supportive of you now that you're a woman." Meanwhile, like the wife is like sitting here being like, "Yeah, widowed," and then it comes out that she's been molested as a child, and like that's her big secret, and nobody's really that all that worried about it, you know.
Big shocker.
Yeah, so the narcissism is pretty astounding.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I don't know if you want to touch more on the rape culture thing or reparations for rape you wrote down. Real estate in support of rape culture.
Yeah. Well, I recently had an experience. I've been looking for an apartment to live
Mm-hmm.
in, and I've been having it's I've been having a hard time. And the most recent place that I viewed, this woman gave me a tour, and it was like, okay, this apartment, and I was like, all right. She's like, but my husband's gonna like, work out the details. He's gonna be the one to like decide about who applies and who gets it. And I was like, okay. Um, so he called me later, and I talked to him for a bit, and then I came to find out that he had at least 4 cases of rape open against him a few years ago. So this man that owns this property, I was like, well, thank goodness I found out. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh my God.
my brother happened to. This guy is also like a prominent artist in Phoenix, Arizona. His name's Bill Tonneson. I think it's important to say his name.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he
The
owns all these
fuck?
properties. He's potentially renting out to young women. I read some of the cases against him. In one of the cases, he showed up at a woman's house uninvited.
Oh my God.
A different case, he locked a woman in a room and raped her. So it's like I could have potentially
Yeah.
been renting out
Yeah.
this house from this man who,
Who has
could have
access to your place? Like, what
exactly.
the fuck? And he still has this
Yeah,
job of doing that, and no one
yeah,
cares. Like,
yeah,
meh.
totally. And
It's fine.
it's been a couple
He's fine.
years, so it's
He learned his
fine.
mistake. It's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Oh my
I was so
God.
mad at his wife, like I was like, you know, you're like kind of luring women in,
Yeah.
protecting him for sure. And then who knows, like if he has not done anything to heal, if he has not gotten help, like it's only a matter of time before
Oh yeah.
he attacks
Set
another
up.
woman, if he's not already, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yep.
Um, so yeah,
Denial of
and
reality, as usual.
totally, totally. And I mean, yeah. I mean, I imagine that relationship is abusive. How could it not be,
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think real estate, and I mean real estate, the ownership of
Scary.
land and the ownership of female bodies are like the same energy to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same essence. And this was just like a very clear example in my face that I had recently that was like, rapists own most of the land. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a lot of men who have never been charged, or like nothing's ever come out that of rapists that own land, and like we will just never know. And I'm just like, where are the safe places for women to live? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just so pissed. And like, I felt this like really deep lack of male protection, you know, because it doesn't exist really. Like, where are the men paying for women to have safe places to live? You know what I mean? You talked about like coming out about your rape. It's like, it's not like you got any money. You know what I mean? It's like, where is the money for this? Why aren't women being like compensated? Where is the reparation? Like, where is the conversation about reparation for rape? Because as you know, it takes a long time to heal. You know, like, it's taken a lot of my energy, a lot of my money.
I don't even call it healing. I just call it like dealing with it. Like, it's like
healing is such a stupid word, I think.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, it's just like any
it's
sort
not,
of, I know, yeah,
but
it's like any sort of trauma. I mean, you're healing along. Like, it's not, you're not gonna. It's not like, oh, let me get rid of this childhood abandonment issue I have, for example. It's like, you're not gonna get rid of these things. I think it's a hopeless, and that's where you're gonna feel the most frustrated. Is like, why am I still being triggered? God, I've worked so hard at my self-care. Totally. Why isn't it gone? It's not gonna go away. It's a part of you. You have to learn to just deal with it, and you know, when it comes up or when you're being triggered, whatever, just living with it, because you are permanently, in my eyes, a damaged person, and a lot of people are walking like damaged goods. I feel like almost all of us in various ways. God.
Yeah, I wanna like hold space for it being possible to like live a life without being triggered. Like, I want to hold that as a possibility for my future, for like everyone's future. I don't know, you know, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to move through the world in the future. But I do want to hold space for that. And I think you're totally right. It's like, we're all, to varying degrees, we're all walking around with some sort of wounding, trauma, you know, like, none of us are immune to what's happening in the world. And I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like, growing up in like a culture with this much porn, like, to me, that's sexual trauma. You know what I mean? Walking past an advertisement of a woman, like, you know, being sold, that is sexual trauma, regardless of if you're a man or a woman. You know what I mean? Like, being dehumanized in that way, like, it's, the sexual wound feels so big to me. And
how accessible or how visible that stuff is. Like, you know, like town newspapers or magazines that are usually free, like, in the back there's all these hookup ads and shit. It's just like, it's right in front, it's everywhere. Instagram, in your face, like explore page, or accounts that I'm slowly unfollowing, because I like latex, but my God, a lot of it is just so that questionable culture, BDSM, like, I don't think leaving welts and bruises is love. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, it's embarrassing how long it took me, not that I practiced that shit, but I can't believe how long it took me to realize how I mean, I knew there was something wrong with it at the core of that, but I was like, thinking that bruises and choking and electrifying people and red slap, just like hurting someone is love? Are you out of your mind? That's, I mean, I don't like to, you know, kink shame, but I think there's something really wrong with, there was this, I was listening to a podcast, Gender Through a Wire, Linds, Sasha and Stella O'Malley. They cover a lot of stuff that I talk about, but there was this case of somebody in a therapy class, or I guess it was, I don't remember what it was, they were telling their story, and it was like this guy that went to a BDSM person, was like, listen, I want you to beat me, and when I say stop, don't stop, and just don't stop. So they did the whole thing, they acted it out, and he was like screaming to stop, and he passed out, and the Dom, whatever, I think I might have told you this already, but it doesn't matter, like, and then the guy came to once he passed out and started crying, and there's that trauma bonding. I'm like, that's not healthy. That is severely, like, reliving a trauma. I haven't investigated enough of trauma bonding. I really would love to, but fuck, that's not good. That's not good. I personally think that that's severely unhealthy for obvious various reasons. Dear God. Anyway, that was a tangent. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think like we have to be able to be critical of these things that are
Hmm.
popular. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
BDSM is getting more and more popular. Um, and there's
Oh
like,
yeah.
and there's a way people work out their trauma. Like I don't know everything about the universe or how trauma
Hmm.
works or how healing works. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough thing. And I totally, yeah, I was definitely conditioned to like think of abuse as love. Like I think
Hmm.
many of us were, and so it
Hmm.
is. It's a confusing thing to unravel that.
Yeah, for sure.
And and I'm thankful for the people who have um, said something to me.
Hmm.
Said like, "Are you sure about that?" Or
Hmm.
even when I got mad at them, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, who like held up a mirror in a way that was like, "Are you sure about that? Like
Hmm.
maybe we could look
Hmm.
at that." Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that's crazy.
Planting
It's
little
craziness.
seeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I don't know if we want to go to birth work or the word gossip in Hollywood. I don't know what's better segue.
Um, I don't know either.
I mean, you don't obviously don't have to talk about him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I came to birth work. I mean, coming to birth work has been really a healing thing for me. There's that word again.
No, but
Um,
it's a. I understand what you're saying about it.
yeah,
It's not a
it's
bad word.
hard to find. I'm trying to find
Mm-hmm.
like a different word for it,
Mm-hmm.
and one that I've come up with. Um,
Reassuring or soothing.
Metabolizing or
Mm.
digesting an
Mm.
experience. So like I think
That's good.
sometimes,
I like that.
yeah, when I use the word healing, what I'm talking about for myself is like digesting an experience that's like been overwhelming or big.
Mm-hmm.
um I was like talking to a friend the other day. It's like digesting a huge piece of meat, you know what I mean? It's like it takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
And like it has to go through your body, and then your body like clings on to what's helpful and what's
Mm-hmm.
nutritious and then gets rid of the waste, you know what I mean? Like that's to me what healing is. And so birth work has been like so eye-opening, and I got there by way of herbalism. It's like I think once I tapped into some of like the wise woman
Mm-hmm.
ways, like it just like the string just keeps following, because women are herbalists, women are midwives, regardless of if you train or whatever. It's like I think that's like innate in every woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um so that birth work and learning about birth could be like, birth to me is like the antithesis of rape, right? It's
Mm.
like you're like it's a sexual experience, and like you're creating something, like you're creating life. And well, modern day obstetrics and obstetrics in general is
Mm-hmm.
rape. I think is rape
Mm-hmm.
culture. Protects rape in a similar way. um I think the possibility for birth to be like a really healing experience for women who have been raped,
Mm-hmm.
is really powerful. And so I think about my life, and it's like, okay, do I want to spend all my time thinking about rape and like
Mm-hmm.
women being raped? It's like, no. Like of course I want to be aware of it, and I want to listen to women, and I want to hold space for that conversation because it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
But I want joy. Like I want to lead a joyous life, and what the fuck is more joyous than like bringing a baby into the world? Like, it's just so beautiful. And that women can realize their strength and their power, because that's the thing I think too about rape. It's like it's because we're powerful
Mm-hmm.
that they have to
Yes.
make us make us think that we're weak, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And I think
Yep.
that's the biggest truth. And I'm totally into um, acknowledging the ways that women are oppressed, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not committed to that being true for the rest of my life, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the people who are the most powerful, you have to oppress them the most, or else shit's gonna like they're gonna get in the way of all the plans, like
especially if it's
all the
yeah,
agendas,
especially if it's
especially if
a
it's
natural
yeah.
thing that you're just born with if you're a
Mhm.
adult human female. I think that's
Mhm.
yeah, I've thought that too recently, where it's so obvious that I keep bringing it up, damn it, but why I didn't want to do feminism because I'm like, ew, those people are
Mhm.
loud and annoying
Mhm.
and or just gross and well, they don't know what they're
Mhm.
talking about. But I'm
Mhm.
like, well, of course, whatever the hell I watched growing up, or whatever made me think that way, patriarchy. Like, I can't even name that one thing. It's just
Yeah.
I'm like, but then I embraced it, and it's been amazing, and
Mhm.
I find that there is some serious power.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it without sounding like stupid or woo woo or ooh
Bring
psychic.
on the woo woo,
I'm
baby. Come
like,
on, let's
it's just
go.
to me, it's just like natural intuitiveness. I've always
Mhm.
felt that empathic. I've had these tendencies of kind of being able to read or like understand a person just by their presence. I'm not saying I'm always right,
Mhm.
because I'm always learning. Like who isn't? So if I
Mhm.
even need to say that, but God, I don't know. And just talking to other women
Mm.
and hearing them say stuff. And it's really only been feminists because I feel like only, well, I don't want to like label it as like just feminists, but women that embrace their femaleness.
Mhm.
They say these things that I've like maybe never even thought about, but I'm like, yes, you
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I've had a lot of female friends growing up. I mean, obviously, my sisters, my mom, aunts, whatever, you name it, teachers. But it's just like there's this like surface normal plane that people live at. All
Mhm.
right, let's just use women, I guess. But then when you start embracing what it is to be female and the power that you do have, you're just
Mhm.
like, I don't know. And I'm not, it's not like I'm better than anyone thing. Fuck off if
Mhm.
you're reading into what I'm saying. I'm just so tired of that shit.
I know. I know.
Yeah, it's magical. It really is.
Yeah.
Even just the discovery of like, wait, the witches were like healers and
Mhm.
herbologists or whatever. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's it. That's why they
That's
were
it.
called witches. I'm like,
That's it. Yeah.
this makes so much sense. Like, I don't
Mhm.
even. I'm just like, I cannot believe I'm this old and I'm just now realizing what witches were. My
Mhm.
God. I mean,
Mhm.
this is what is so upsetting is that it takes like your
Yeah.
own, really serious investigative work. I mean, it sucks because like I can't even imagine if you Google like female power, it's probably some bullshit BuzzFeed article. Like you
Totally.
really have to, I guess, find other feminists or radfems or whatever, gender critical people,
Mhm.
to just. I'm not sure, and even there's bad people in every group, but I don't know. I just find it to be really magical in that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like this unspoken. It's just like intuitiveness, seeing the world for what it is, and it's
Mhm.
so hard to describe.
I get you though.
Yeah.
I totally get you. And actually the word um the word gossip in Hollywood might be good to bring up now because um it's exactly what you're talking about. Like you need to like talk to other women and you have that moment of like, oh, you too, like you have the same experience, and that's
Yeah.
so important for women and so important, like why female spaces are protected, because we need to have that. And part of my awakening to that, and I think what you're speaking to of like, oh, like I didn't even know that's what I was missing. Like I didn't even know there was something missing in my life, but this was part of it. I read Witch Hunting and Women by Sylvia Federici, who's a Marxist feminist, although I've heard recently that she's capitulated to the trans.
A lot of yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
So
lot.
that's
Yeah.
disappointing, but her this book is still amazing, and
Yeah.
I will continue to reference it because it changed my life. And one of the chapters is called "On the Meaning of Gossip," and it goes into depth describing the word gossip used to mean female friendship, plain and simple. No negative connotations. No like you're a bad person for gossiping. Nothing. Um, Sometimes it even meant like midwife or person or woman who attends births. That's like the meaning of gossip. This is from like a European standpoint. She's talking about the witch hunts in Europe. And so women gossip. Women would go to the pub. They would go on walks. They would be, they spent all day together in those times. And what started happening is like they were starting to talk about their husbands being abusive, basically. They were starting to be like, oh, like your husband does this? I thought my husband does that too. And so they were starting to do this thing that you're talking about, is like figuring out like, oh, like this is actually like, and you need that to like overcome gaslighting, right? You need that to like, to name abuse. You need to like get with other people and to like have a name for it and to be able to speak to it. And so this started making men mad because they started, their women weren't paying attention to them. They weren't obeying. And so what happened is men started catching on to this. And around this time, there wasn't TV and everything, but there were plays. And they were called the guilds. And they were owned by men. And to me, this is like what Hollywood is now. And I worked in Hollywood as a producer, so I have some like embodied experience of what that world is and how it could be similar. But they started putting on plays and demonizing women friendship. They started demonizing the word gossip. And so then through these like satirical plays that would basically make fun of women gathering or make fun of women for having women friends, they started demonizing it and to break women apart, basically. And then over time, if women weren't obeying their husbands, they would put on what was called the scold's bride, which also came to be called the gossip's bride, which the woman's tongue would be held in place, and if she tried to talk, her tongue would be cut off.
What the fuck?
So, like, this has been going on for centuries. And
do you know what year this was, or era?
I want to say like the 15 or 1600s, but I would honestly have to double check. But as somebody, like, most of my heritage is European, so like I was reading this and it was just like, woof, like this experience of like, holy shit. And then to like look around the world and see how that's being done to this day. You know what I mean? Hollywood is an evil. If there is evil in the world, it's in Hollywood for sure.
Oh yeah. Disney looking at you.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so, Hollywood still, like, they have unions and they have guilds, like even the word is the same. And that Hollywood is programming us as women to be pitted against each other is like so clear to me.
Yes.
And to be armed with like that historical knowledge is really helpful.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look at what this fucking, I gotta say, mostly men-dominated trans shit. How often, I mean, minus the social contagion of the girls, it used to be a lot of, mostly boys wanted to become women. And then, all of a sudden, the charts go whoop of little, young girls. Oh, not a social contagion, though, not at all. Even though girls, or young teenage girls, I believe that's the age bracket, are known to have these, like, social contagions. I mean, there's a, like, dancing or laughing fit, like, historically, where they're all dancing in the streets and they would pass out. Where was I going with that? It just pisses me off so bad, liberal feminists, like, I've lost my best girlfriend.
Totally.
Like, look at what it's doing to women now. It's insane. Fuck. If it's not censoring females and our rights and our right to just exist, we got a problem. Wake up. God, I'm so tired of this. Fuck. She's literally sitting here protecting men's rights to be in women's prisons because they feel like a woman. Are you out of your mind? I fucking cannot deal with this shit. Oh my God. It's so absurd. I hate
Yeah.
all this jibber jabber and fighting online or friendships breaking up when I feel like
Hmm.
that's just so much fodder, or
Yeah.
putting black ink and black dye in a blue drink. It just turns it all black. I'm
Hmm.
like, they overcomplicate it like crazy with like, well, if they're trans but they're not. I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's
Hmm.
just not reality. It's not.
Hmm.
That's what people don't understand when I say it's not real. Like, I'm like, well, you can't become a man. So then,
Yeah.
why are you calling your? Why do you still want to call your? If you, it's because I've heard this argument. Like, they know that they're a woman, a biological female. I don't like using the biological term because that's also language fuck up thing.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that for just this purpose. But then they still call themselves a trans man, and I've realized that this person, oh god, calling you out, sorry, whatever. I don't even think they watch my shit. Don't care. This is how I see it. They also identify so heavily with this I'm this thing. It gets
Yeah.
them views on YouTube. It makes
Hmm.
them relevant in this current conversation of being online. Like
Hmm.
I feel like if I compared it to comedians that quite a few of them are obviously alcoholics or addicts. And I've heard one comedian be like, I don't want to stop drinking because I'm scared I won't be funny anymore. It's the same shit where it's like, okay, well, you're not,
Hmm.
you know you're not, you'll never become a man. Well, why are you still calling yourself a trans man? It just
Hmm.
breaks my brain. I hate this gray area of all of it. I'm
Yeah.
like, the gray areas are everywhere. I don't
Hmm.
believe in this bastardization of language. I don't
Hmm.
believe in that. We
Hmm.
all know what man is. We all know what woman is. I
Hmm.
literally slipped up the other day saying, I knew it was a woman, but it definitely all the testosterone and stuff made it look more convincing that it's, more masculine or more male.
Hmm.
And I said, trans man. I don't usually do this. And literally, like 5 words later, I said he. And I only caught it because I re listened to my audio I recorded. And I was like, fuck, I didn't even notice that I slipped up. This is
Hmm.
exactly why I won't use this trans man and trans woman thing. Because they're like,
Hmm.
they try to argue, like,
It's
well,
confusing.
yes,
It's
it's purposeful.
intentionally confusing. Yeah.
And I believe this whole
Yeah.
pronoun bullshit is the beginning of the end of language because they're
Hmm.
teaching you to just go along with it. But I'm like, but it's so obvious how intentional it is to
Yeah.
distort reality and fuck.
Hmm. Fuck indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying more and more to, and I definitely fail sometimes. But just be like, it doesn't actually need defending. Like that a woman is a woman and that a man is a man and that you can't change your sex. It's like it actually doesn't need defending, and it's super intense right now. Like it's everywhere. It's hard. It's not. I'm not able to ignore it really.
Yeah.
But I try to sit back and be like, all right, like creator knows truth, like whoever or whatever, if you believe in that, which I do. And so it's like they know truth,
Yeah.
creator knows truth, source knows truth, and I actually don't have to defend being a woman. Um, it's this like frustrating thing because at the same time I'm like, well, I feel the need to defend myself and girls too. So
I
it's
know
a
it's
paradox, but at the
yeah.
same time, I don't. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable what's happening. That I believe, and so I try to take solace in that part of it.
How's it not sustainable? Go on.
Well, I mean, I don't think cutting your body like you see it with people who detransition. It's like you at a certain point, it seems. I mean, I'm sure people can go their whole lives with it, but I'm saying if you zoom out in history, like I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, also if women continue to cut out their uteruses, like the population's going to go down.
Yeah,
It's a form of
eugenics.
eugenics. Yeah. Um, so in that sense, like if I zoom out far enough, it's not sustainable. Taking synthetic hormones is not sustainable, in the long run. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. And when you omit body parts, it just makes you hyper focus on other parts of your body. It's just never ending.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
solution. I just don't believe. Another reason why I don't believe in it is I don't believe in not living your authentic self, your truth, which is what you're, how are you brought into this world? God doesn't make a mistake of like, oops, just kidding. Sorry about that. You'll have to deal with that. That's not it. Like I think that's
Yeah.
absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not it. There are no
Yeah.
mistakes. That's just a lie that they, born in
Yeah.
the wrong body. Shit. It's not.
Yeah, it's like the aim is disembodiment of so many things of coronavirus, of transgender, which is like so the word transgender doesn't even make sense to me. I think I was
Yeah.
saying this to you. It's like if you're trying to change your sex, you're transsexual.
I
It's
know.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you're
that's on
claiming
purpose too. Yeah.
yeah, it's ugh. Um
That's
but yeah, I
hilarious.
think
Yep.
the aim is disembodiment. And so anything I can do to be more embodied, anything I can do to help other people be more embodied, anything we as women can do to be more embodied is like a big fuck you to like, oh, I didn't fuck you to, all these things. Um, so that's my aim right now.
Yep. I try to think of like what is their end goal besides like the whole transhumanism thing. Disembodying people,
Yeah. To be able
disassociating.
to exploit them. I mean, if you're disembodied, you're able to be exploited. Like, and I'm not going to pretend to be perfect and like be embodied all the time. I'm not. Like, there's ways that I'm sure I'm being exploited that I'm not aware of yet, because I disassociate. I check out sometimes, and as long as that's happening, then I think a population can be exploited, and we're seeing that very clearly.
100%. Yeah, it's depressing as fuck. Especially when it's happening to the youth when they're trying to find themselves and fuck. I could tangent about this all day long. It's so upsetting. Oh
Yeah.
God, it's really destructive. It's just like true evil. Dude, fucking hellfire flames are just scorching the earth right now. It's really what it feels like. I feel like I see it every day.
Yeah,
I
it's
I take
tense.
this stuff personally, and I know people laugh it off, or they're like, "Oh, we've always seen that Elvis." I'm going to the Little Nas shit. Like that's the most demonic shit I've ever seen. Like flat out, this rapper's grinding on a demon, and then at the end he snaps the demon's horns off, and puts him on. The black wings emerge, and then his eyes turn black, and at the end he's like, "Oh, I like this." I'm just like, you can't. Oh my God, I don't know. That's so.
Yeah,
There's a million
were you
arguments.
raised Christian, it sounds like?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
I
your
just don't.
relationship with Christianity? Like,
I'm still a believer. I don't like. I just don't like the whole church thing or
yeah.
calling it religion. I'm
Yeah, totally.
not ashamed of it, but I'm not like super loud about it. Sometimes I am embarrassed of it because I feel like people are gonna judge me. Like, oh. Like if you see someone reading a Bible on a plane, you'd be like, oh, what a freak. What if they're reading a Playboy? Oh, that's not freaky or
Yeah,
weird because that's
totally.
so normalized.
Totally. Yeah.
I just I know that there's been obviously like I don't know Britney Spears all slutified and obviously questionable visions of stuff is out there, but then I got this random email for this like demon movie and it's like try this filter on Snapchat where your eyes are bleeding. I'm like I personally see it from my perspective all this like really dark shit and like a lot of the trans youth are like really all this imagery of the occult and pentagrams and dark stuff. And I just believe it's just this headspace that you put yourself in that is really destructive, really dark. I mean that in a sense of like it's all consuming. It is like a blind over your what you really are. It's like a filter. Like like they have filters for lighting and for TV sets.
Yeah.
I forgot what they're called. It's so dangerous. I just believe that stuff is very dangerous. And I actually look back at my Instagram. All that shit is still there if you go back. Or some of the images that I saved on my Instagram, and it just started going into this fucking like BDSM, dark. Trans was definitely involved in it, or I just didn't even question it. A lot of people find like I don't want to say satanic because it sounds so old school, but black, gothy. I don't know. This isn't like to demon. I like black stuff. I like looking gothy. It's not about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just one of those conversations. I'm like, oh, I'm not here to offend people. I just find
Yeah.
it's an interesting observation, and I think that there's something to that. Where
Mm-hmm.
where's your head at? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I yes, this is definitely something I was taught by my mother that like this shit is dangerous, and I don't think she's wrong. I just think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that is a step down, like just a step down.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing with fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I think it's important to be able to like question all those things and
Especially when it's a pattern.
yeah.
I'm like, it's just what I see. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
yep.
Yeah, and there's absolutely value in that in what you're seeing. Um, I have yeah, I have I have an interesting relationship with darkness. I mean, I don't know about like goth and like demon and pentagram. Like
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't appeal to me. But I also like I've subscribed to like the dark goddess, like the void, the darkness,
Mm.
the earth, the like um the soil where everything's made. So I'm I'm careful to like label darkness as bad,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the womb. But I don't think that's
Mm.
what you're speaking to is a different
Yeah, it's
sort
just
of
a
thing.
correlation I've seen where I don't know. It's just stuff that I've looked back at my past. I was anorexic for 6 years.
Hmm.
And I looked, I just, there's this image, a selfie I took of myself that I always think about. That was really
Mm,
awful time in my life. I mean, it's all consuming, basically slowly killing myself. I hated
mhm,
myself, hated my
mhm,
everything,
mhm,
antisocial beyond belief. My only family was this online fucking eating disorder forum.
mm,
No life, no
mhm,
future. And this image, it was a selfie and took in the mirror of, obsessed with my body and how thin I can look. And I
mhm,
drew over my face like a skull, like
mm.
just,
Oh, yeah.
just shit like that. Like,
Mhm,
why did I do that?
mhm,
I wasn't super goth then. There was no pentagram in my, or there was no like, but I'm like, that's just, what is that?
mhm,
I mean, I know
mhm,
what that is. To me, it's just very clear that that's where my headspace is at, like
mhm,
darkness,
mhm, mhm,
despair.
mhm. Yeah,
Fuck.
yeah.
I don't find that to be healing. That's not living your authentic self. This is
Mhm,
what kills me about it is like, well, if it's not offending you or hurting you, I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like, it's hurting you. It's hurting
mhm.
you, the one that believes that that's gonna, this one ticket out of your despair or your dysphoria or dysmorphia,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
It's such a lie.
Yeah.
Satan's the
Yeah.
father of lies.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're speaking to, like I would call, or my teacher, postpartum teacher,
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle Garcia Saliga, she would call death culture.
Yes.
And
That's a
and
good.
I
Yep.
think
Straight up.
since she's introduced me to that term, I can see it really clear. I'm like, oh, okay, like and what I was speaking to earlier of like anything that's meant to disembody us, like eating
Mm.
disorders or
Mm-hmm.
hating your body or dysphoria or anything like that, is definitely a part of death culture. And I thought of it,
Mm-hmm.
when you said drawing the skull on your face. It's like, well, yeah, like I think um, the death culture has done a very good job in making us not want to be alive, like not
And
wanting to
making it
be like,
trendy, making it cool.
yeah, yeah,
It's an aesthetic.
yeah, yeah.
It's just, I'm not gonna sit or please anybody, and I think there is certainly coolness to it. I love all colors. I love everything. Um, it's just a tricky thing. I don't know. I don't know really quite how to describe it.
Hmm.
I'm not even like judging people. It makes me very cautious, me personally.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like psycho. I have skull stuff. 3D printed skull planter. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Me and my tangents. Um, we have performance art. I'm intrigued.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, what's
I
that?
well, one of the most I was in New York a couple of years ago, and it was around the time that I started getting interested in herbalism. Um,
Yeah. How did you? Can you walk us along that? How did you get interested in that?
um, well, when I was 17, I was really um, unhappy. I was really struggling, as I think many, like I think teenage years in the
Oh yeah.
world. And I'm speaking from like a U.S. perspective, like that's my
Mm-hmm.
experience, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I don't know what's all happening around the globe. But in the
I
U.S., I
think
think
that's
it's
global, straight up. I think that's just
yeah.
teen years, but
Well, and I think um, like that's when a big part of socialization happens and like a
mm-hmm.
big disembodiment happens. It's like you're forced to sit in chairs for
Mm-hmm.
hours a day and go to school and like all of this stuff and like learn to be a good productive member of society. And I think teenagers still have that spark in them where they're like, something's wrong here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Something's not right. So I was definitely having that experience, and I was feeling really sad and really depressed, and also very isolated from my peers. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like, everything that you're talking about, people, it seems so stupid. You know what I mean? I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember just being like, how can you find this interesting? Like what you're talking about.
Yep.
And so I was very lonely, and my parents were pretty quick to jump on the like, you have anxiety and depression. I was like, well, no, I don't think so. I think I'm just properly responding to like what's happening in the world, in my life, and in our family system. There was a lot to hold, and I didn't have any
Mm-hmm.
emotional support. So yeah, so they were, wanted me to go to a psychologist, and I did, and like I think I tried antidepressants for a few months, and like I was just like, I also tried birth control at that time for a few months, and it was like, no, not for me.
Isn't that
Um,
funny? I think I had the same experience where they prescribe you stuff because they're like, well, it's been shown to us for some people it helps them out. Now I just think
oh,
that's
it's
bullshit.
it's such
I'm
bullshit.
like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. I've seen
Please.
so many loved ones be, it's just like a codependent, like so many loved ones have been taking drugs their whole life, pharmaceutical
Mm-hmm.
drugs, and it's really, really sad. And it's like, I don't even know how to access them anymore because they've just been drugged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yep.
I would say probably my beginning of being an herbalist was 17, of being like, I'm not going to do the drug thing. Like something doesn't feel right. And I was dating, um, I had a high school boyfriend at the time, and his mom was a naturopath,
Mm.
um, from Russia. And so,
Wow.
she
Amazing. Oh, they
started,
love their herbs. Straight up.
yeah, she started talking. Yeah, your husband's Ukrainian, you said?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
amazing.
so she started teaching me about like how to eat, because my family was like, I was growing up on a Midwest diet, from boxes, like I didn't actually know how to feed my body or myself. And I'm still learning to this day, 11 years later,
Mm-hmm.
um, what is nutrition? Like what is like vitality, for my body. So yeah, I think for me, herbalism has always been related to emotional health and, being, learning how to keep myself healthy, because it's like a full-time job. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
every day you have to continue building a relationship with your body, I think.
Yeah.
um and then I think it
Was
was,
your mom like that at all? Like, what was she like?
no,
So I'm so intrigued with your
yeah,
thought processes and your likes and whatnot.
it's so weird because I didn't really have any mentors growing up. Like I just had this internal knowing of
Wow.
like
It's amazing. You were
something.
meant to do that, clearly.
Yeah, totally. I
Amazing.
I think it was definitely like I was definitely guided.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my boyfriend's mom at the time, was helpful in like opening the door, um,
Fascinating.
for me. But my
Makes so much
mom,
sense. Of course, a woman would be like, whoa, what's this? Tell me more, and just be
mhm,
drawn to it. I think it really is a women, I don't know, women understand like herbs and like how to keep your body healthy. Like we're the life
yeah,
bringers. Of course, we're going to
totally,
understand how to
totally,
keep it going,
totally.
keeping
Yeah,
the machine going. God,
hmm
it makes so much sense when you think
hmm
of it that way. Sorry not to cut you off.
yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Um, and it's like a relationship with the earth too. It's like I think there's an
Yes.
inherent inherent relationship with the earth. I think that all humans have. Like, I think it's really
Mm-hmm.
sad that we're not as like it's there's so much grief that I've had to process about like being so disconnected from my body and the earth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and then so it was always something that I was like sort of like learning about throughout my 20s, and then a couple years ago um, I spent some time with Susan Weed in upstate New York. She's an herbalist,
Mm-hmm.
amazing wise woman herbalist. And
Amazing last name.
yeah,
It
I've
sounds like a
never
Matilda book or something, or Harry Potter. I don't know.
totally,
Amazing.
I've wondered if that's, I think it's her real name.
Mm-hmm.
But I have so much love and appreciation for her. And she's actually, so it's funny because like my herbalist training with her and radical feminists like go hand in hand because she was the first woman to be like, no, 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 like only women are here. Like
Hmm.
this is a woman space, and men who claim to be women or trans men, they're not welcome here. Like her land is a women only land. You know, she's like a radical feminist from the 60s and 70s
Yep.
who has kept that and has seen, you know, the trends. Um, so yeah, she was really important for both of those experiences for me.
How did you come upon her or discover her? Did you? I don't know if I heard.
It was it was a singing teacher that I had in New York. I was taking singing lessons with him, and he mentioned her. And the story I first heard about her was like, yeah, she's really powerful, and like she's been accused of choking a woman. And I was like, what? I was like, so like, what? And I kind of like I have this knowing like if there's outlandish rumors about a woman, like I'm like, I want to know
I
more. You
know
know what I mean? Like
exactly.
if like people are
Really?
like, she's crazy, like I'm like, oh, I want to know that woman. I want to know that crazy woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. J.K. Rowling
Um,
is a transphobic.
yes,
What did
totally.
she say that's transphobic? Well, I don't. I mean, I just heard. Yeah, shut the fuck up. She's not transphobic.
Yeah,
She said
yeah,
nothing transphobic. Standing
yeah,
up for women and girls and stating the glaring obvious that only
yeah,
whatever. Just come
yeah,
on. People don't even care. People don't care. People don't care.
yeah. No, and they don't look at what she actually. I don't think
No.
they look at what she actually writes or
No.
says. It's
No.
just this like thing that gets passed
I know they
around.
don't. Yeah, because I actually
Yeah.
tried getting one of my ex friends to do that, and nope, nah, nope, can't be bothered.
Yeah.
People don't want to know the truth sometimes. They really don't. They don't want to be wrong. They feel like maybe they're doing like a duty to like uphold something and protect men, men protecting men. I don't want
hmm
to. I'm not going to read the thing what a woman said. I'm already
hmm
decided. I
hmm
mean, this person's already clearly misogynistic. So,
hmm
bye bye.
Totally. Yeah, and I think I don't know, it seems like some people are just not meant to see. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I think to see this
Hmm.
world is like it's been so
Yep.
difficult for me. Um
They're not
and I
brave
know
enough, and I
for
think they know it.
yeah, it's just it's really hard. A certain veil has to be lifted, I think, to understand what's
And it's
happening.
really uncomfortable. This shit's not
Yeah.
fun. Are you kidding
I
me?
know. I lost so many friends. I've like it's been a whole initiation of it in and of itself,
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
discovering what patriarchy is in
Yeah.
society and the history of
Yeah.
that's not fun. Let me tell
Mm-mm.
you. Really,
Um,
God,
to realize
it's
how much the world hates women is really
yeah,
painful. Is
it
really
is.
painful.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
undeniable amount of it. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
hmm Absolutely.
Oof. It's not a fun awakening, but
Mm-mm.
um, I just really think it's obviously important
Yeah.
to be able to combat it or just remain brave, I suppose. Know thine enemy, so then you can.
hmm
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm interested in truth, so I want to know, you know.
Yeah, straight up, same.
I want to know. Yeah.
Yep. So, what is your herbologist thing? Like, what is that? What do you do?
Um, I mean, I think the most important thing is just having a relationship with plants. I see it's like having a relationship with a person, you know, it's like developing a communication with plants.
So, do you have one-on-one chats with people where you can, they can sign up and They can go to you. I'm trying to like drop your business here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not working.
Yeah, I mean, my business is also very new, and I have a hard time promoting it. But yeah, I definitely do one-on-one consultations, and it's like I'll teach you what I know, and then it's mostly to facilitate a relationship that people develop with plants. And it's so simple. It's really simple. It's really safe. Um, it's really easy. It's really fun. And you can just feel good. So yeah. Yeah, but you can email me if you would want to do a
Yeah, I'll
one-on-one
put that up in
consultation.
the yeah
Yeah.
description.
But yeah, I think introducing women to plants is wonderful. And it's been the root of definitely it's the root of one awakening, that I've had. And um I remember being on Susan's land and being like, oh my gosh, they just take all the food and then they sell it back to us and it's right here. You know what I mean? Like I was like so pissed. I was like, fuck. It's like it's all right here, like I didn't grow up on a farm, so I imagine that's like a very different experience. But like I grew up in suburbia where you can get strawberries all year round. It's like not natural, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're so detached from going back to the basics. I'm like, God, I want to
Yeah.
farm now. Give me a break.
Totally.
How amazing is that? Like what you just said about the strawberries. Like that's so detached from like
Reality.
even yeah, exactly. Authentic. We're all so detached. Our lives are freaking online. None of this is natural. Nobody's
No.
bred to look at a never-ending scrolling feed of
Yeah.
social media, Twitter, Facebook. There's a lot of. Do you know how many emotions are floating around just Twitter alone? Like, and
Yeah.
how much that actually affects your mind and how you
Totally.
carry out your day, depending on who you follow, or not even necessarily who you follow. Twitter's not even like that. Twitter will show you shit that you're not even following them, whatever. Like, since when did the what is it trending now on Twitter? Now it says what's happening. I'm like, it doesn't even say trending anymore. When did they change that? Like, I never believed that was real anyway. I mean, actually, I did
Yeah.
until I was like, wait, because it's on the side right bar. It used to be like, this is not viral. I think it used to say trending. But then in between there, I would see little tiny underneath one of them promoted. I'm like, I'm like, oh, this is all fake. And then I'm like, oh, wait, this was a while ago and it obviously discovered this, but I'm like, this isn't real. This isn't fucking trending. There are people behind this machine or algorithms at this time or whatever it is. Well, people make the algorithm, so God,
Yeah.
I hate this bullshit like that social dilemma documentary thing on Netflix where they're like, oh well, we created this app and we didn't expect it to go this way. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, you have a fucking duty to do something about it, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna be like, whoopsie daisy, I'll just go quit this
Totally.
job and go work for another one. Really?
Totally.
Wow.
It's so funny. My mom like loves that documentary. She won't stop talking about it. I was like, I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a lot of stuff I already knew, but
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't know? Like,
I'm
it's
just
not
like everything that you're telling me I already knew. Like I
Yeah.
don't need to watch documentary about it. I mean, maybe it'd be helpful, but also
There's a couple of new stuff that I found interesting.
Yeah.
I actually fast forwarded it because there's a stupid, oh my God. Oh, one of my early podcast episodes, I ranted about this. The guy, Vincent Carth something, I can't remember his name. He was in Mad Men. He was that douchey guy. But he's like this
Which
three
one?
of them. I know, exactly.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I forget. Campbell, is that his name? Not the
Pete
main
Campbell?
guy. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like three of him, and they all have like different personalities, and they're like controlling the motherboard of throwing up stuff on this guy's phone. They did this whole like reenactment of like somebody had this visionary idea of like how to display how social media works, and it's extremely cringy. I'm just like fast forward past that shit. It just kind of has like a day in the life of a kid with a phone and a family, and I find it to be very cringy. But the other stuff is good. I just fast forwarded throughout that stuff, and I also am like a super skeptical person. Where is it?
Yeah.
Which side? Right there. You can't read it. It says skeptic though. Whatever.
Okay.
Tinfoil hat. Pen I made. Shout out to myself. Anyway, well, apparently one of the Netflix co-founders is Robert Bernays, whatever. I think he's the propaganda guy. I finally remembered his name. That's like one of the co-founders is Bernays' like cousin or something of the father of propaganda. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like,
Yep.
Well, why would they put that out? I just, question everything on Hulu and
Totally.
Netflix and all this stuff. It's obviously
Totally.
brainwashing. I'm like, well, why would they want us to know that? Like, what
Yeah.
is that? Like, what?
Who is it serving? Yeah.
What's the ulterior motive? I mean,
Yeah,
I know that we're
totally.
being brainwashed on levels that we aren't even aware of.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite scary. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Netflix, back to Netflix, documentary called Don't Fuck with Cats. It's really good. It's not even what it sounds like, actually.
I don't even know what it sounds like.
Well, it's not even about cats. It's about this crazy guy who uh, got away with all this. Well, he did fuck with. It was really disturbing. He would murder things and film it. And there was this internet group of people that were trying to find out who this guy was. And at the end, it was basically a thing of like, with the internet and them trying to find this person, did we perpetuate and accelerate this guy doing what he did, which started killing people, where they started feeling guilty, basically like a bounty hunter internet people volunteering this stuff of like, did we contribute to this guy getting worse with his killings and whatnot? And because this guy obviously wanted attention,
Yeah.
and this group would, I don't know. Like, I think that's terrifying. And I actually had that thought about this trans stuff.
Yeah, I
Where
totally am with you.
we keep retweeting all this
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, well, we're keeping it alive.
Totally.
I'm so
Yeah.
conflicted where I'm like,
Yeah, I hear you.
fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. And I think that's like where I think I'm like in a bit of a transition period in it, but in my relationship with it, but more and more, it's like, I don't need to defend this actually.
Yeah.
Like, you can have your whatever you need to do and whatever freak out everyone's having right now, like I think there's a lot being churned up right now. But yeah, like what reality do I want to live in and how do I want to create it? And giving my attention to transness makes it more makes it stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I totally hear you. I have that same like inner conflict happening in me, and it only exists online. Like for me, like I don't have. I mean, not only, but mostly it exists online. So it's like if I was living on my farm that I want to live on, it's like I wouldn't even know about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I go ahead. I thought you were going to say something or continue.
No, I don't think so. I think that was it.
God, I've had that where I'm like, well, how big is this? I know that it exists
and what
in real
is it
life.
distracting us from? Like, I'm trying to keep that in mind too. It's like, what could it be distracting us from? Because I always
question, excellent question.
I always try to keep that in mind. Because there's layers that we don't know, that I don't know. And I think pedophilia is.
Oh yeah.
I think pedophilia is a big one. That like people are always trying to distract us from. And so that's one that I keep kind of close by and just be like, all right, like, because that to me is like the thing that I want to not exist on the world the most,
Oh yeah. I find this trans stuff, there's obviously so many onion layers to this, or spirals on the tree trunk. I think pedophilia is one that's very closer to the inner ring of what trans is. And for people that like don't have all the investigative work I've done, or just every day of seeing it, it's really hard to describe. I mean, there are groomers on the internet, Instagram and Twitter. It's so malicious, insidious, where he's, this guy's like, do you feel lonely? Do you feel like you don't like your family? Guess what? I love you. I'm your family. And it's this fucking like 40-year-old man. He looks scary. I mean, super red flag, like, dear God. And there's this, like, one of the first comments is this verified, like, 12-year-old girl's account that the mom runs and comments and is like, we're so thankful for you to, like, be there for little kids. What the fuck? I'm just blown away at how they see this guy as like helping out misunderstood kids. Like this random guy. He's such it's so obviously grooming. And some of them are like, you can message me personally. I'll help you. What? Like personal email or DM? My DMs are open? Look at that. Break it down what you think it is. It's a
Yeah.
fucking old man messaging like a 9-year-old kid,
Yeah.
like abolishing families and
Hmm.
replacing it with a glitter family. Like
Hmm.
that's happening.
Yeah.
I think on a huge, large scale. I don't think this trans stuff that's rolled out to me, I've seen it, has really the pedophile red carpet has rolled out during the
Hmm.
pandemic because
Hmm.
all these kids are on their phone,
Yeah.
computers, iPads. My
Yeah.
God, it's so easy
Yeah.
now. There's a fucking horrifying article that I think it's called 4W. It's like a women's website where they wrote about this thing called, I don't even want to say it. It's like it's one of those things where do I even want to say this shit? I don't even want to put it out there. There's this website where
Oh, I see. Because then people can, like kids, yeah, can find it. Yeah.
do I even like God, I don't know. I'm so conflicted. Whatever.
Hmm.
It's this chat room where kids are allowed to just not verify their age and the
Hmm.
fuck. Someone did a basic work. The
Yeah.
article was mind blowing. I'm gonna write this down 115 to put that link in there. They were trying to act like they were a kid to see like what the fuck this was. And
Yeah.
the can I show you my pee pee? Like this shit was immediate. Immediate. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just one tiny example. Like
Yeah. And I think about like when I was, in middle school, AIM was around. And so like I feel like there was a lot of like awareness about, AIM being used
chat
to,
rooms, yeah.
yeah, to get access to kids. And now I'm thinking like with transness, like parents would just hand them over,
Yes, that's what I'm
like
saying.
it's like it's
Yes.
not even like this like, oh, we need to protect kids from like adults trying to have sex with them. It's just like, oh, here's my kid, like please teach them how to be trans. It's like
Yes.
it's yeah, it's quite disturbing, and scary
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Teenage kids going to LGBTQ like classes. I mean, this is a literal
Yeah.
T-trans story. This girl, and she talked about how she was silenced and couldn't speak out because it was males pretending to be women dominating the room. And it was
Yeah.
extremely grooming, predatory. She had a relationship with one of the men who was a fucking dom. Like,
Hmm.
and it's so normalized, like talking
Yeah.
sexual anything
Hmm.
with an adult and you're a teenager. And they
Yeah.
and they
No.
frame it in a way of like, this is fine. Like everyone
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah.
I'm helping you out. Like, oh
That's
my God.
exactly, yeah, that's what grandpas and uncles used to do, like we're gonna play game. That's it. That's how it
Yep.
happens.
I just
It's
find it,
like
yeah.
it's very obvious, at least to me
Yep.
and you, and yeah, it's quite scary.
There was LGBTQTIE trending or what's
Hmm.
happening. So
Hmm.
like cutie, like it spells out cutie, which red
Hmm.
flag. I was like,
Hmm.
all right, what is this fuckery? I clicked into it. And it was like all these youth being like just thirst trapping, but a lot of it was like porn, like,
Yeah.
imagery,
Hmm.
and like tits, just like so sexual. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I understand you want to be an
And not even
individual.
sexual, like I don't even want to use that word to describe it because it's
Yeah.
like
That's,
it's like it's
yes.
porn. It's not even sexual, it's
Yes.
porn, because sex is beautiful, like
Thank you.
sexuality
Thank
is
you.
great.
Yes.
um and yeah, like that's not sexual. That's porn. That's
Yeah, you're literally,
pornographic
yeah, advertising yourself as a sex
object.
object.
Totally. Yeah.
Fuck. Like,
Yeah.
it was like every 5 images. A lot of it's
Yeah.
like unique looking people. Like, I love colorful hair and makeup, clearly.
Hmm.
Um, wow, it's disturbing. There's this really
Yeah.
frail looking boy in like a black slip. It's just so much insecurity of like, uh, fuck, dude. I forgot what to say about that. I don't remember. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I hear you. I remember having this moment. Um, I was caring for a friend's child, and like he was a newborn at the time, and I was like taking care of him, and um, was like rocking him to sleep outside, and this woman came over and like asked her to sing him a lullaby, and she basically sang a song. I don't remember the words, but like she sang a song essentially like it's all for the children. Like that was the message of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in that moment just being like, I just like felt this like huge knowing and like whoosh kind of feeling. And I just started bawling because I was like holding this perfect little child. And I was like, wow, like everything that I've done as a feminist, everything like that I've like tried to do as like an activist or just in general as like a person and speaking truth. It's like it's all because like I care about this child and my child,
Yeah.
my eventual children. Like I just had this really extreme knowing in that moment of like, oh, like I understand. I'm actually doing it all for like the next generation. And so if I keep that in mind, like I'm just like, okay, I don't care. I don't care who thinks I'm what. Like, I care about children being safe and thriving and being able to feel good in their bodies because that's
Yeah.
what I feel like a lot of what's happening right now is like
Yep.
we just don't feel good in our bodies. Our bodies are horrific places to be because most of us have been, harassed or raped or molested or tortured,
Yeah.
Um,
Your
so
body keeps a score.
of course, yeah, of course we don't want to be in our bodies, of course, and so okay, what do I do with that information? I want to raise kids who feel good in their bodies, I want to raise kids who know what feels bad in their body and so we can stay away from it so we don't yeah, I want my children to know what pleasure feels like and what it feels like to be healthy and loved and safe.
Yeah. God.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Oh, yes, cry. You're my first crier. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how I haven't cried yet.
Yeah,
Jeez. This
yeah,
is all this stuff is so overwhelming and it's stuff that I don't get joy in researching, like knowing that
yeah,
the kids are the most like
yeah.
innocent. They have no idea. Like of course they're walking targets for disgusting pedophiles. By the way, don't
Yeah.
post images of your kid online like ever. They get off on
I
that shit.
know.
Like
I know.
any,
It's
like
so
any. I'm
weird.
not even talking about like a little toddler in a bikini. I'm
I
like
hear you. I
any.
hear you. It's a
Um,
weird thing. Like, I'm like, that child can't consent to being online yet. Like, that's so weird. It's
yeah.
so strange. And like, so many of those people who do that, I'm like,
We've been
talk
bred
about
to think that
consent.
just we're supposed to
Yeah.
share our lives online.
Yeah. And
Um,
like, who knows where it's going? Like, I feel weird about having my face on the internet. It's
same.
like,
I know.
who knows who's tracking it and like what's
Oh yeah.
being exploited. I
Mm-hmm.
find it very strange. Like pictures of newborn babies. I'm like, oof.
God no.
I will like
No,
keep
no,
my phone
no.
as far away from me when I have a baby.
I know.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Although I mean, I say that and then I'm gonna be like,
I
I don't
know it's hard because it's just
know.
well because phones and sharing your life online is absolutely normal.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that's just really I'm sure I'll post kids photos of my fucking kids. I'm not perfect. It's
Yeah.
just easy to say that but like
Yeah.
it's just I've tried to like be like, oh God, I hate the phone, and I still hate the internet and the phone. I think it's been so destructive. It's done nothing good, and it's only making it worse.
Mhm.
Yay, pessimistic me.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but I'm like at the same time, I'm like, well, it is a part of our lives. Because I'm like, fuck, I want to delete my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I hate this shit. I hate how these conversations and just weird quarrels like, oh, someone made me an admin and he got taken off. Oh no, someone saw that I was an admin. Now they're gonna think it's just like wild mental stuff that never existed until the
Mhm.
internet. But I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I have to. Like, not that I have to. I can do what I want, but I feel like in my field of work, um, I have to be on the internet. Like
Mhm.
putting this on YouTube, putting my
Mhm.
podcast out on podcasting. I mean,
Mhm.
I have to do. I mean, for my research too. A lot of this is such
Mhm.
an internet phenomenon, culture thing. It's impossible to escape. It sucks.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the good thing about the internet for me, or what I make it mean, I don't know, who knows what's true,
No,
but
there's good stuff. I always bring
but
out the yeah, yeah.
yeah, I hear you on that, but I think like the ability to gossip, kind of like in the way
Mm,
that I was talking about earlier, like, and to find people who I can be like, oh, you too, you know what I mean? Like
mm-hmm.
I think at this
Yes.
time in history, like it feels like that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
because like how do we name the trauma if we're always trying to be told that it's not, it's like, oh, by talking to other people. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's a lot. It's overwhelming. And I've been learning about Chinese medicine recently, and like
Ooh.
the spleen and the spleen's role in digestion, and like
Mm.
it's just like it's not only digesting food, it's digesting emotions, it's digesting, like
Mm-hmm.
all of this information that we're like taking in
Yes.
in through our eyes, and like, and it's so overwhelming. And
Total body experience. Yeah.
yeah, and um so I think, our chi like is really affected
Mm-hmm.
by like the internet and all of the information. So it can be really, really dangerous,
Yes.
and unhealthy for our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. By the way, the Body Keeps the Score is an actual book title, and it's
Yeah,
phenomenal. I'm like, man, there
yeah.
are a couple of books people should just read, even if you're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like,
Mhm.
are you really? There's a lot of stuff that
Yeah,
if you hear, I mean, God, they break it down. Stuff that
yeah.
can be very,
Bessel van der Kolk,
I can't
Bessel
remember.
van der
It's a
Kolk or something.
blue cover with like a
Yeah, I've
dancing
read it.
body.
It's what I think I
So
read it
good.
like when I was like 23 or something, and that's why I like went back to therapy. I was like, oh,
Right? See, exactly.
you gotta
Yeah.
go.
I know. Straight up.
It was a hard book to read. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, I should really listen to it again because I bought the audiobook. It's so good. I feel like I talk too much. I had an annoying day, so I apologize if I was just ranting
Oh,
too
you're all good.
much.
I know you went to the DMV, right?
Yes, it was terrible.
Oh
I'm like,
no.
why is that such a difficult thing to even get through? I feel like I'm like there I get there and they're like, "Where's your confirmation or what's, show me your that you have this appointment." I'm like, "But I didn't get an email." Like
Mm,
like why it's not a streamlined process whatsoever. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm probably just get all pissed off again, reliving it. But I'm like, I think that's on purpose. Some of it seems so purposeful. Like, 'cause there's no excuse why I wouldn't have gotten an
yeah.
email unless it went to my spam thing. I don't think so though. But it's just so much of the process of like getting driver's license renewed or whatever is
Oh yeah.
so dumb. I filled out all the paperwork beforehand online, and then I get there and have to fill it out again, and I'm like, what? And even the lady like controlling the line is like super annoyed and like
Hmm.
her energy. I was like, all right, don't let it affect you. You know the DMV is gonna suck, but it still got to me. I was like, fuck.
Hmm.
I just don't.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, I think going out in public right now is like really difficult. It's like so
Yeah.
draining. I'm just like, oh my God, there's like stuff flying everywhere, and like energy
Yep.
flying everywhere. I'm like, I get home and I'm like, oh my God, I need a fucking nap, It's
Exactly. I
wild right
know.
now. I
Oh
need to
my
get
God.
out of the city. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oof. I know. I can't wait to move out of here. Dear God. I'm just ready
Hmm.
for a change.
Hmm.
Well, did we cover everything? I mean, I could talk forever. I always say that. Is that a cat? Was that a cat?
I I don't have
Did
a
you hear
cat.
that? Oh, you heard that too, though? You looked
Yeah,
at
I
something.
did. It might be a kid outside.
Oh, okay, okay. Kids can sound like animals. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, there are cats outside too, but I don't think that was it.
Yeah.
So that
No.
was weird, yeah.
I feel like I forgot to ask you some stuff. Ugh. I'm like, don't go. Well, you didn't talk about your well, not that you have to, but I'm just intrigued by it. I think the audience would like it. About your do you call it midwifery? Your that doula? What's the
Hmm.
difference?
Well, good question. I don't even know how to like define the two. I mean, because traditional like midwifery as it stands now, or like how most people know that, like isn't traditional midwifery. Um,
What is midwifery?
Being present at birth and death, like
Mm,
being a keeper of death and life. But to me, that's a
wow.
midwife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a wise woman healer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every woman has the potential to be that.
Oh yeah.
Not and outside of licensure and all of that
But I
made
guess what
up
I mean by
bullshit.
asking about it is like, what does it look like? Like you stand beside them and give them stuff that they need, and is this in a hospital setting or only at home births or whatnot?
Well, I'm not a midwife. I haven't attended many births,
That's
um,
right.
but uh, a postpartum
Mm.
care provider. You
Mm-hmm.
could say postpartum doula.
Mm-hmm.
So after a woman gives birth in traditional cultures around the world, there's like a 21 to 40 day period of like laying in, of like not bed rest, but like, being slow and healing from
Yeah.
pushing, pushing a human out. And then there's an gestation period of after birth. Human babies are born, out of all the mammals, they are the least developed. So not only is a baby like in gestation, after they're born, they're also gestating outside of the body of a woman. So women need care after they give birth. It's not something for just privileged women. It's not something like some women need and some women don't. It's an imperative for all women, if they want to, have health moving forward in their life.
Yeah.
In Chinese medicine, it's called the golden. I think it's like the golden opportunity. I would have to double check, but postpartum period, it's an opportunity to either be very depleted or actually regain your health in a period where there's actually an opportunity for immense healing.
Wow.
In the body. So I sit with women in that period, and again, similarly, like nourish, care for, and tend to the initiation that motherhood is, because it's huge initiation. Wow. It's a huge spiritual development for any human being to become a parent, especially a mother. And Rochelle Garcia Saliga, who is the creator of Innate Traditions, who I studied with, is an amazing midwife. And I don't know where I was going with that. She's just amazing. I love her. Yeah, but there's not a lot of postpartum trainings out there.
Yeah, I would imagine.
In this time, and it's a very misunderstood time. Most women I've talked to who have had kids, who are maybe adults now, have been like, I didn't have that. I didn't have. It's like, no. Like, you're talking about postpartum depression. Maybe you didn't experience that, but you are postpartum. Once you have birth, once you carry life, even if it's ended in a miscarriage or an abortion, you're postpartum, which was kind of a shocking thing for me to learn. And yeah, it's a really, or like many times I've heard a woman say like, oh, well, I was back at work the next 2 days. It's like,
the fuck?
Whew, yeah. I mean, talk
imagine.
about patriarchy. That's not the design. That's not the design for mothers at all.
God. So. What is it, Sweden? They give new mothers like a freaking package of like clothing, diapers, like huge package of stuff. And I believe the men have what's it called? I can't think of the paid time. Not what is it called? Damn it.
Oh, paternal leave.
Yeah, like men have that too. Or I can't remember how it's done, but man, I'm like, what? Why do these societies do something, at least something like that? And then I'm guessing it was America. You just mentioned go back to work 2 days. I can't even, what?
Yeah.
How is that legal? Like, what the fuck? The fact that it even exists, the fact that anyone okayed that, the fact that that woman, whoever okayed it, whether it's the the company or the woman being like, I'm fine, like something went severely wrong.
Yeah. It's really, really sad, and we've come really far from that knowing.
Normalizing just removing yourself from being with your child like that soon, like that's okay, like thinking that's okay. That's really sad.
Well, and I mean, like I imagine for some women it's imperative to like pay for things,
right?
But it has effects regardless of if it's imperative or needed or necessary. In certain situations, it has effects on baby. It has effects on mom, for sure.
One of the reasons why surrogacy is terrible. God. Yeah. Because when I, became a feminist, I'm like, whoa, well, there's a lot of talk about, obviously anti-porn, and then, abolishing or stopping surrogacy. And I was like, but why? Not that I was
Hmm.
ever like pro surrogacy, but I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but some people can't have kids or I don't know,
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
Or some people don't want to wreck their bodies. How vain is that shit?
Hmm. Hmm.
And all it took was one damn video of this woman's surrogacy nightmare. Oh my god. Some like Indian guy in actually California.
Hmm.
Well, she has multiple. Her whole story, I should link that too. I'm writing it down because I'll forget. Like one example of a gay couple, we're basically just using her like she's a fucking machine. Like we want the baby coming on this day, and I don't know, like I'm sure they wanted I don't know, just saying that you want it to be on this day. Like what?
Hmm.
Ridiculous. And the woman is just a machine. There's no, there's no mother anymore. It's just a fact.
Hmm.
Like, and how dangerous it is for women to go through multiple pregnancies and like removing a baby from the person who birthed it like
Hmm.
ASAP is
Yeah.
what? That's gonna
Yeah.
fuck you up like crazy. Even if you think
Yeah.
that like especially if it's your first time. I wonder how many first time surrogacy women there are, and then like never again.
I think
Probably like
I
porn.
I feel like I heard, I could be wrong, but I heard like you have to have a child or something. Like they
Oh,
have rules where like you have
what?
to have had a
Hmm.
child. So like they think that maybe that'll make it like easier on you emotionally, I
Because you
think, which is
understand,
like
yeah.
yeah. Well, you'll understand and like you have a child to go back to, you know what I mean? Instead of being like I don't know, it
From what I've heard, it
seems.
don't work that way. Like it's still
Oh,
a part of
really?
you. Well, no, no, no. What you're saying, like that sounds like
Oh, no,
obviously
no, no.
it's
Like yeah,
yeah.
there's an innate yeah, there's an innate like cellular knowing that your baby that is yours is not with you, and that baby has a cellular knowing of that too.
Yes.
It's not. And I mean,
Yep.
I think about my own birth, and like I came from my mother, like she kept me, like all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
and still there's birth trauma that I'm unraveling, you know what I
Mm.
mean, from a fairly, normal birth. I could not imagine if I was taken away from my mother what that would do to my life.
Well, that was just one of the part of that woman's story. It was basically the FBI showed up at her door and was like, "Do you have any connection to this guy who's uh they're looking for him, I guess." Basically, this woman got paid in gold bars. It was a baby to be sold to be trafficked.
Oof.
Yeah, and I don't even know. The guy got locked up. It was insane. I was like, oh, the fact that that exists, like, there's no, if the society is built on men protecting men, then do you really think men are going to be like held accountable and put behind bars or whatever and be not protected to
Mm-hmm.
paying a woman to birth a baby to be born into sex trafficking?
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't imagine how rampant that is. I was like, I didn't even, my mind never even went there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know you don't know the true evils of the earth until it happens to you, number one, or until you just, research it and
Mm-hmm.
discover it. And it's like, what? And you can't see life any other way after that. You can't close that door.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it just, God, I was
Yeah.
like, what? There's nothing good out of it. It's such a lie. Like
Yeah.
the treatment of the women sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
Like it's not nice. Just
No.
people just I think kind of forget to remember like how the world works. Like, why would you think a woman would be mentally okay with that afterwards? Where do you even hear the women's stories afterwards? That's not publicized. They
No.
only they
No.
only show the happy couple with the new bought baby. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yay! Look at how nice this is.
Mm-hmm. Or those very few surrogate mothers who like think that they've had a good experience. It's like it's all advertising, it's all propaganda for
Yes,
sure. For
100%.
sure.
And people lying to themselves about what it is really.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we
Terrible.
covered enough disturbing topics, but that's what I'm here for, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to have people on for. This is exact reason of discussing fucked up shit and just the truths of the world. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for coming on. Name drop any social media or website or anything you want right
Mm-hmm.
now, if you want.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm on Instagram at serving her, SERVING. her.
What a great name.
Um,
That's great that you got that.
yeah, it definitely has to do with women in the human form, and then also like goddesses and goddess culture. I feel in service to goddess. Some people call God,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I feel that that's what I'm in service to above all else.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be reached at my email. I don't have a website, but my email is Jess, Jess, Bryn, BRYNX at gmail.com. So if you want to
Great.
set up an herbal consultation, I can do that virtually. Or if you need any postpartum support, or also support healing from rape too. I help women through that
Oh,
as well.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing what you do. Your presence and everything that I've seen you do and even talk about is so important. We need more of you. I want to do like a bow. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's fine. Yeah, thank
Well,
you. And thank you
yeah.
for the podcast and the space for women to chat and talk and be heard, and creating that for women is really important. So thank you too.
Yep, my pleasure. Well, until next time,
All
people.
right. Adios.